Students, we are in chapter 12, that is your domain name system. Okay, wow. Here we are discussing briefly about the domain name and where it is available, that is where it is seen for you people. That is your name server, URL, types of URL. So what are the components of the domain name system? That is a total, you will be having 3 components. What are they? Name server, the next one it is your zone, and the next one it is your namespace. That and all we have discussed in our previous classes. Okay, and by now we are going to continue with the next topic, that is how the domain name system works for you. So how DNS works, so that only we are going to discuss by now. That is, in this class we are going to see by this only. Okay, so now we are going to see, consider just you people are sitting in front of a computer. In that you people are going to type an URL. Example I am telling, you people are going to type www.google.com. What is actually happening there? That is not known to the user. Just by entering the enter key within a fraction of seconds, we can't tell it is a fraction of second, within that you people are having your home page of Google displayed on your computer. Actually how it is happening for you people, so that and all we have discussed few things in the early classes. Just simply I will be explaining that by now. Listen, yes, first you people are entering the URL. First, the user is entering the URL. The URL will be having 4 parts that you people know. It is going to consider the protocol, domain name, folder name, and the next to the file name. So after entering it, what is going to happen? The next step is the system itself going to check the cache. System cache means it is your temporary memory location and it is your faster memory location. Okay, so system, that is in the computer and the URL enter pandriyo, that computer is going to check that system, check DNS cache, check for DNS. Okay, check DNS cache. Why it is checking? To find the IP address. You people are typing the domain name only. Computer understand only the IP address. So the next step, the system is going to check the domain name system cache for IP address. If the IP address is found, what is the case here? If the answer is yes, if it is going to have the IP address there, if it is going to have the details there itself, what it will be? Yes, the page will be displayed immediately for you. The page will be displayed immediately for you. The next step, it is no for you. If it is not having the answer, what it is going to do? If it is not having the IP address there, what it is going to do? Yes, it is going to the next step. It is going to have the next step, that this one is going to make a query. Query means it is going to have a question. It is going to make a query. That is, there you people are having the resolver. You are having the resolver to find out the IP address. You are having the resolver. So this resolver is responsible to find the IP address that we have discussed in the previous class. So this resolver is going to the next step to get the IP address from the ISP. So this resolver get IP address from ISP. What is ISP for you people? Yes, it is your internet service provider. It is your internet service provider. So here also it is going to check if it is going to have the answer yes. If here in this area itself the resolver is going to get the answer, means what it will be happening? Yes means yes, the corresponding page will be immediately displayed on the system. If no, what is going to happen? If the answer is no, what is going to happen? Yes, it is going to move to the next domain server. It is going to move to the next domain server. What this server is going to do? Yes, the same processor. There also it is going to have a resolver. That resolver check within itself. That is going to check within there. If it is going to find out the answer, that answer means IP address and that IP address related web page, the result everything it is going to have now, it will be immediately sent back to the resolver itself. Then the resolver will be sending that back to the system where the URL is typed for you. So here, if it is not going to find the answer, that is the result is no means, then next level it will be moving on to the next domain server. Like that it will be moving until it is going to find out the correct IP address for the entered URL. So this is the simple way I have explained how the DNS is working for you people. I repeat it again for you people. Yes, listen. So in a system, a person is going to, that is a user is going to enter a URL. So in that system itself, the system itself begin to check the DNS cache for IP address. And the அங்க இருக்கிற cacheல என்ன பண்ணும், IP address இருக்கான்னு அது செக் பண்ணுது. ஒருவேளை if the answer is yes, அங்கே ஆன்சர் கிடைச்சிட்டுனா the resultant page will be displayed immediately on the system for you people. அப்படி இல்லை, அது நோவா இருந்ததுன்னா the next step it will be making a query is given by the resolver. Resolver-ஓட responsible தான் நம்ம ஏற்கனவே பார்த்துருக்கோம். It is the responsible to get the correct IP address for the domain name. அதுதான் it is the task of the resolver. So அப்போ இந்த resolver என்ன பண்ணணும், it must get the IP address from the ISP. ISP means whom? Internet Service Provider. So அங்கே இருக்கிற ஆன்சர் if it is able to, அந்த ஜோன்லேயே அதுக்கு ஆன்சர் கிடச்சிட்டுனா it will be immediately sent back to the URL, that is your computer. The person who is typing the URL, immediately result will be there. If it is no means, again the query is made and the query is passed on to the next domain level. The query is passed on to the next domain level. If it is going to have the answer, yes, it is back to, the result is given back to the resolver. The result is what? The IP address is given back to the URL. If ஒருவேளை உனக்கு ஆன்சர் கிடைக்கலன்னா என்ன நடக்க போகுது, again it is going to search again the query is passed to the next domain level. இப்போ அங்கே ஆன்சர் கிடச்சுன்னா you will be having the result. If you are not going to have the answer means again the query will be passed to the next domain server. Like that it will be going on until it is going to get the correct IP address for the typed URL. Clear with the simple way how I am explained how DNS works for you. I'll repeat it in Tamil for you. Listen. So ஒரு கம்ப்யூட்டரில் இருந்துட்டு ஒருத்தன் URL டைப் பண்ணுறான், அந்த URL-குள்ளே URL எந்த சிஸ்டம்லேருந்து டைப் பண்ணுறானோ அந்த சிஸ்டமே என்ன பண்ணும், செக் பண்ணிடும் தன்னோட கேஷில் அவன் டைப் பண்ண டொமைன் நேமுக்கு IP அட்ரஸ் இருக்கான்னு இருந்தது, தட் இஸ் எஸ்ன்னா அந்த ரிசல்ட் அப்படியே அவனுக்கு டிஸ்பிளே ஆயிரும். ஒருவேளை இல்லைன்னா a query will be given to the resolver. இப்போ என்ன பண்ணணும், this is responsible to get the IP address யார்ட்டிருந்து, from ISP. ISP is nothing but Internet Service Provider. ஒருவேளை இந்த இடத்துல நம்மளுக்கு ஆன்சர் கிடச்சிட்டுனா, அந்த கரெக்ட் IP அட்ரஸ் கிடச்சிட்டுனா என்ன ஆயிரும், the result will be back to the URL. உன்னோட கம்ப்யூட்டருக்கு ஆன்சர் வந்துடும், இந்த பேஜ் வந்துடும். அப்படி இல்லை அப்படின்னா, so the answer is no means it is going to query the next domain server. If it is going to have the IP address means result will be back to the resolver will send to the system. If it is no means move to the next domain server until it is going to find the IP address in the correct domain server. Then the result will be passed back. இப்போ higher level or 10th domain server answer கிடச்சிட்டுனா the result will be back to the 9th, then back to the 8th, back to the 7th. Like that it will be reaching the resolver, and then the resolver will send that to the system in which the URL is typed for you. So clear? This is the way how the DNS works for you, how the domain name system work for you. So here you people are going to have a TDL. Here you are going to have a TLD, that is nothing but top level domain. Here you are going to have top level domain, TLD. So what this TLD is going to do, it is going to review the request and direct the query to the, it is going to review the request and direct the query. அடுத்தடுத்து சர்வருக்கு டொமைன் நேம் சர்வருக்கு அதை அனுப்பணும்ல, அந்த டாஸ்க்கை உனக்கு யார் தான் பார்க்க போகிறா, TLD தான் பார்க்க போகுது. Until the query is solved for you, that step is correctly followed by the TLD, that is your top level domain. So clear with the explanation that is given for how DNS works for you. So it is very simple and very easy. So clear with the topic. If it found the answer, the result will be there. If there is no answer, that is the URL that you have typed is wrong, then the error will be displayed for you. So before displaying the result or the error, everything will be checked by the resolver. So clear with the topic, that is how DNS works for you. So clear with the topic that we have discussed by now. Yes, by now we have completed the working of DNS. Okay, so we can have a glance from the beginning. That is, what is the first, what else we have discussed? Yes, first we finished the introduction. Okay, introduction, the early stage, what they are using the IP address to access the information. Okay, so it is next, it become difficult for them to go on with the IP address. So to replace that one, we are having domain name. Next they introduced domain name. Okay, and domain name was created and it was mapped with the IP address. Why it was mapped with the IP address? Computers can only understand IP address only. Okay, so the next one, it is your application layer is one of the 7 layers. Yes, DNS is one of the application that is seen in the application layer for you. Okay, the next, by using the domain name system, the each and every domain names in the network are able to link, that is map with each and every one. So before we are entering into each and every topic, we must have a glance over the DNS components. Then we discussed who introduced the DNS. Yes, that person, first one, it is your Paul. And next one, it is your John. So these are the two persons who introduced the concept of domain name system. Okay, yes, next we finished IP address. So IP address is simply a logical address in the network layer. So next we completed IP address. So it is nothing but a logical address in the network layer. So this IP address is further categorized, this addressing modes, into two. Yes, what it is? IPv4, and the next one, it is your IPv6. So IPv4 is nothing but it is your 32-bit, and this is nothing but 128-bit, and it can be represented as 2 to the power of 23. Here it is 2 to the power of 128. So each and everything under that we have discussed. So here it is represented in two ways. That is your binary notation, and the next one, it is your decimal. So that we completed in IP address. And next we completed URL. URL is Uniform Resource Locator. Here it is going to have 4 parts. What are the parts? First one, it is your protocol, host name, folder name. The next one, it's your file name. Here URL is of 2 types. What it is? Your absolute URL, and the next one is your relative URL. Absolute URL, and the next one, it is your relative. Absolute means it is going to give the complete address of the document on the internet. If 4 parts I told you, no, so in that any one is missing means you people will not be able to access the website. So that is your absolute. Relative means it is your partial address. Relative URL is nothing but it is your partial address. It consists only the file name or the folder name. It is going to consider the file name or the file name in which folder it is to be. That only it is going to be have. Next we completed the DNS components. Next we completed DNS component. What are the 3 components we are having? Yes, that is your namespace. Next one, name server. And the next one, it is your zone. So these are the 3 that we have discussed under DNS components. That we have discussed under DNS component. So under namespace, what you people will be having? It can be organized into two ways. That is your flat namespace, and the next one, it is your hierarchical namespace. Okay, wow. Hierarchical namespace is nothing but it is like that of a tree-like structure. So here you are having another one concept, that is your domain namespace. It was designed to achieve the hierarchical namespace. To achieve the hierarchical namespace, you are having the concept of domain namespace. It is similar to that of a tree-like structure. So how this tree is going to have the root? Here also it is going to have the root, then it is going to have the domains, then subdomains, and further subdomains it is going to have. So initially to tell root, next it is going to have the node. The node is going to have the values of label and the domain. Okay, wow. Then we finished what is a label and what is a domain. Label is a string, maximum of 63 characters. Next we completed the domain name. It is a sequence of labels, and the C are separated by dot, and it is separated by dot. Since, don't forget, always the root node will be having null value. Always the root node will be having null value. Okay, wow. Since it is having a null value, each and everything will be terminated by dot for you. Okay, ma'am. Next we completed the basic rules of domain name. Next we completed the basic rules of domain name. So under that, what else the rules? Yes, first one, the domain name consists of alphabets A through Z and the digits 0 to 9. So hyphens are allowed, but it is not allowed in the beginning for you. Spaces are not allowed. Special symbols are also not allowed. Similarly, domain name characters can be 253 characters long. Minimum is 2 and maximum is 63. Similarly, domain names are not case sensitive. They are not case sensitive. That is, what do you mean by case sensitive? Upper characters and lower or mixing of both characters or same meaning only. Next we discuss the generic top level domain name. For that, you people can have the example like COM, that is your commercial, EDU, it is your educational, GOV, it's your government. Like that you people will be having for generic top level domain name. Next you people are going to have the next one. It is your country top level domain name. So it is your 2 character country. In represent India, US, United States, FR means France, UK means United Kingdom, CA means Canada. So this is your simple examples for country top level domain names. So these are the topics will be under namespace. Next you people are going to have the next component, that is your name server. So what's the name server is going to do for you people? Yes, it is your main part, and it translates the domain name to IP address. It is going to translate the domain name to IP address. Okay, wow. Then here we have introduced another one term, that is your inverse domain. So what this inverse domain is going to do? It converts the IP address to domain name. Actually everything will be converting the domain name to IP address. Inverse domain means it is going to convert the IP address to domain name. Okay, wow. Here you people are having 3 types of name servers. What are they? Root name server, and the next one it is your primary or the master name server. Next one it is your secondary or slave name server. Okay, wow. So what and all points you will be having root name server? So it is your top level server which contains the entire DNS tree maintained by ICANN. So what's the expansion for ICANN? Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Okay, wow. And the next one here, it is going to have 13 servers. It is going to have 13 servers. The next one is your primary or master name server. It contains a zone resource record. Zone level records will be here. These records are updatable and maintained by the organization, domain holders. Those who are the domain holders, that persons can update it. Similarly, the third one, it is your secondary or slave name server. What it is going to have? It is just a copy of the primary server file. It is a copy of the primary server file. This server has no authority to update but reduce the workload of the master server by sharing the queries. Just by sharing the query, the workload of the master or the primary server can be reduced by means of the secondary or the slave server. Yes, next component we completed, it's your zone. It is defined as a group of contiguous domains and subdomains. Okay, similarly, every zone is going to have a database that is called as your zone file. That is your zone file. The zone file can be of 2 copies. That is your master file, and the next one, it is your slave file. It is going to have 2 copies. That is your master file, and the next one, it is your slave file. Okay, yes, we can have few definition. What is a domain? A domain is a single node of the domain namespace. What is a zone? A zone is a subset of the domain namespace generally stored in a file. Server. A server can contain more than 1 zone files. A zone can contain more than 1 subdomains. So these are the topics that we have discussed under DNS components. And next we completed the resolver. And next we completed the resolver. Resolver is what it is going to do? Yes, it is a mapping. This is going to map the correct domain name with a correct IP address. If there is some error while receiving the mapping, while doing the mapping, if it is going to have error, immediately it will be the error will be reflected on the screen for you. Otherwise, it is going to give the correct result. Otherwise, it is going to give a correct result for you. Okay, so this is the task of the resolver. The next we completed how DNS works. So next topic we completed is how DNS works. That also we have completed. So here what is actually happening? So நீ enter பண்ணுற URLக்குள்ள IP address உன் சிஸ்டமில் இருக்கான்னு முதல்ல தேடும். இருந்தால் உனக்கு ஆன்சர் இமீடியட்டாக வரும். அப்படி இல்லைனா it will be moving on to the next step. ரிசால்வர்கிட்ட வரும். ரிசால்வர் will search in its cache. அதுக்கு ஒரு cache உண்டு. அதில் search பண்ணும். If it is going to have the answer, that will be immediately given back. Otherwise, what it will be happening? Yes, it will be moved to the next level. It is going to search it in the next domain level. That is your domain name server. It is going to search. If it is going to find the answer, that is your IP address irundhuna, immediately pass to the what? Resolver to the system. Resolver will be checking whether it is a right or wrong. Error. Wrong means it will be reflecting the error for you, right? It will be giving the correct answer. That is the correct web page will be displayed for you. So otherwise, what the next level, if it is not going to have the IP address correctly, means the search is going to be continued until the correct IP address is mapped with the correct domain name. The domain name is correct until the domain name is mapped with the IP address. The checking process, the query process is going on. So these tasks are maintained or reviewed by means of TLD. It is nothing but it is your top level domain. It is mined by the top level domain. This top level domain reviews the request and direct the query to the name server that is associated with a specific domain. Clear with this one? In that we have discussed all the topics by now. So clear with the topic. What else we have discussed by now? So what is the main task of the DNS? Yes, it maintains all the directory of domain names and help to access the website using the domain name. It translates the domain name into IP address. It is going to translate the domain name into IP address. So clear with the topic. What else we have discussed by now? Yes, thank you students.